Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Special treat and a burden for me. I'm breaking my fourth wall. I am entertaining a Bengals fan. John Ashbrook is one of the Ruthless podcast members. He's with the Cavalry Media Company, and he is, of course, I got my merch right here, one of the four co-hosts of Ruthless Podcast, which is much listened to because not only do they have good merch and they send it to me, they sent it to me last year. I want the FCC to note it's not payola. They did not require that I put them on the air. John, let's begin by talking a little football here. You're a Bengals fan. I'm a Brown season ticket holder since 1999.
Yeah.
Who has suffered more?
I think we've all suffered equally here, Hugh. The reason I'm wearing the hat is because I wanted everybody to know that there are still Bengals fans out there despite our 1-4 start. I'm really interested
will
in what
put
you think
on-
is going to happen.
I'm putting on
Oh,
my
yeah.
brown scarf, which is my handy merch. Keep it handy just in case you pulled this on me. Gallagher does this to me all the time. John, did you grow up in Kentucky or did you grow up? Cincinnati is basically part of Kentucky and people don't know that. Not really part of the Ohio State. Are you a Buckeye by birth or are you a Kentuckian by birth who adopted the Bengals?
I'm from Cincinnati. I grew up in Hamilton, Ohio, just a little bit east of Indiana, a little north of Cincinnati. But
Well, my son went to Miami University, and we are on right now on WMUH, our great affiliate down in that neck of the woods. So you are actually a Buckeye. Are you
Yeah.
Miami? Are you Red Hawk? I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Oh, well, that's where the oldest
Yeah.
son went, who's now up on the hill. I have to introduce you to. Let me begin, John, by asking you the question I've asked Matt Continetti and Mary Catherine Ham over the course of the last hour. On The View yesterday, Sonny Hostin asked Kamala Harris, is there anything you do differently from Joe Biden? He said, no, there's not a thought in my mind about that. I don't have one answer for you. That's a paraphrase. I don't want to play the tape and not have this get onto the YouTube because I want people to see it. How would you, what did you think of that answer? Is it up there with Ford and Poland, Dukakis in the tank, Mitt Romney in 7%, George H.W. Bush looking at his watch? Because I think it is.
I think it's the worst possible answer she could have given. I mean, this woman is pretending to run as a change agent, and she can't even say what she would change. I mean, she is absolutely running for re-election, and it was exposed in that answer on The View. And what I don't understand is how she wouldn't have an answer ready. I mean, she looks unprepared. That's really one of the first sort of questions that you'd work through with a candidate if you're a press secretary, right? I mean, what do you disagree with? The top of your ticket. What do you agree with? I mean, it's very, very basic stuff. And yet what she cannot do is say something as simple as, well, I would have been a little tougher on the border. Well, I would have done something different on foreign policy. Well, I didn't like the way we handled something related to prices. They just pick an issue that people care about and act like you're standing up for them. But what she does over and over and over again is acts like she's standing up for the government, for Joe Biden, for Democrats. She just cannot position herself as a leader who is actually going to deliver something for the people who are going to, she's asking to depend on her.
Now, I have no business tasking the most successful conservative podcast in the world, the Ruthless podcast, with anything. But if I were king of the forest, not Duke, not Queen, not Earl, I would ask the four of you to go around the horn when next you sit down and provide an answer to her on this. Because I think it's very easy to say, I love Joe Biden. I think he's been a magnificent public servant and he's been ill-served by the media. And while I might not have given up Bagram, or while I might not have said September 11th, or while I might not have left the billions in equipment, while I might not have stranded Americans there, or on Ukraine, I might not have mentioned a minor incursion, or I might not have put restrictions on the weapons, or on Israel, look, I wouldn't have done the pier. She could talk about any number of things while praising them. So you guys are four political professionals. Do you think you can come up with an answer to help her?
I think it's absolutely something we have to do. And I'll tell you, Hugh, like another thing she easily could have done is like say that, I agree with President Biden on so many things, but I think that we need to demand that the DHS holds FEMA accountable for their lack of work in North Carolina. It like it would be really easy for her to just
Oh gosh, that
say
would have
that
been a
a
good
lot of people
answer.
in North Carolina, that not a lot of people in North Carolina are being critical of what the government is doing. I want a full report on what's actually happening down there, and if they're not responsive in the way they should be, heads are going to roll. That's leadership. But she is not a leader. She's acting like a public information officer for the deep state, where she's like, "Oh no, FEMA is doing a great job. We're the government, and we're here to help. Trust us." It's just what she presents is the absolute worst of the worst, and I think it rubs the Trump
So now I
image.
want to get you guys on Ruthless are sort of a quartet of fan dancers. You refer to numbers that the audience do not see. You refer to internals to which we do not have access. And none of my buddies, no one tells me what the real numbers are, and I don't trust the public polling. I do know the right way, wrong way numbers are 61% wrong direction and 28% right direction, and Kamala Harris just put a big bear hug on that. She loves the wrong direction we're going in. What are the numbers that you guys tease at? What do you think the election is right now?
Well, the truth of the election is it's really coming down to three states. I mean, if you look at the states that were the most competitive in 2020, states like Georgia, Arizona, and North Carolina, those states all seem to be trending towards President Trump. But there are three that are toss ups right now: Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And I think those are going to be very tight right down to the end. And with good reason. They were tight in 16, they were tight in 20, they're going to be tight again in 2024. So if you're watching states that are going to be the closest, those are the three to watch. And those three states also have Senate races happening. So there's some sort of there's cross pressure happening in those among those electorates, Hugh. But those are the three that are the tightest.
What's interesting about those three Senate Republicans, Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania, Mike Rogers in Michigan, Eric Hovde in Wisconsin, they are great candidates. So there's no one dragging Trump down. They actually are going to help him in those three states. So do you think you have a turnout model that is at all reliable? Because we were surprised by turnout in 2016, by turnout in 2020. I don't know how pollsters are modeling this election. What do you think?
Well, I think the Republicans have done a lot of work to improve upon what we did in 2020. Of course, the Trump campaign is very professionalized this time. They are run by two seasoned people, Susie Wiles, Chris LaCivita, who actually have had an entire career practicing and succeeding, but also had a primary season of practicing and succeeding. Remember how much they worked to turn people out in Iowa, turn people out in New Hampshire against a very big field of other Republican primary contenders. So they have practice, and the campaign itself is ready to go in terms of turning people out. And now Republicans have an apparatus that looks a little bit more like Democrats. So that we interviewed a girl, you may know Jessica Anderson from Sentinel Action Fund. They are focused. The Sentinel Action Fund is a group that's focused on making sure that the people who have a low voting propensity but are likely to vote for Republican actually turn out, make sure they get the touches
Oh,
from personal people in their neighborhoods who they know. And so there is a whole apparatus that Republicans have this cycle that we didn't have in 20, and I think that's going to work to our benefit.
John, how much time do you give to Ruthless now, and how much time do you give to Cavalry, which is your political consulting, business consulting firm?
That's a great question. I give everything I've got to both. And the nice thing with Ruthless is we've got a production team, and they handle a lot of the day-to-day stuff. And so when the four of us get together in the studio, we really just sit down and start talking. And then when we're done, which sort of limits the time commitment. We're only 2 days a week up until this month when we're adding a third episode, but we are Hugh. It does take some time, but it's a labor of love.
Oh my goodness, it is so well produced. I want people to listen to Ruthless. I do tell people it's PG-13 most of the time. Occasionally it gets R. Smug is the R. John is the PG because he's from Ohio. And the other two are PG-13. I am working my way. I've had Josh on, I've had you on. Now I got to find Smug and get him out to come out, and I got to get the voice on as well. Stick around with me through the break, John Ashbrook, because I want to ask you one question about Ruthless Podcast. Hey, everyone out there, go and get Ruthless Podcast. Follow it, like it, or as they say on the program, like and opine, like and opine. They don't let you comment or answer their question unless you like them and opine over at YouTube. And I hope you do that for YouTube as well. But stand by. I've got a technical question for John during the break. Welcome back. A little bit of podcast-only content here with John Ashbrook, one of the co-hosts of Ruthless Podcast and a member of Cavalry, a political consulting firm. John, I'm in Maine with my wife. We are leaving next week back to the Beltway. Maine has the Portland media market, and nobody tries to reach the 2nd District because it's too far away and there's nobody up there. It's going to vote for Trump. He'll get one electoral college vote. But it's a blue state. Maine's a blue state. New Hampshire is supposed to be a blue state, but we watch, we're senior citizens. We're over 62. We watch Only Murders in the Building, which is our demo. We watch Slow Horses, which is our demo. There are lots of Kamala Harris ads. And my wife's a little bit stunned by this. I'm not at all, but what do the fact that Kamala is advertising in the Portland, New Hampshire, northern New Hampshire market tell you?
It tells me that she is concerned. Well, it tells me two things. One is that she has just an incredible amount of money. I mean, you've read about how much money her campaign has and her super PAC has. There was a story 3 weeks ago that they were putting $320 million directly into digital advertising. That is a budget that just supersedes Republican outside spending almost in total. So they have endless amounts of money on the Democrat side. They can spend it everywhere. Two, it tells me that she is worried about traditionally Democratic strongholds like New Hampshire and Maine. And if Trump and Trump allies had the resources to be able to push advertising in those areas, they would. And there is some targeted ads in those parts of the country. Definitely not as widespread as what Kamala is pushing, but most of the Trump effort is more on like face-to-face, door-to-door, volunteer, grassroots. So I think, Hugh, that Democrats are rich and they're scared.
John, I have one other alternative answer very quickly. Maybe the Harris campaign is run by people who are either incompetent or B, don't like her because she inherited them from Biden. And again, after yesterday's media disaster tour, so it's sort of like the worst rock and roll band tour. It's like a Spinal Tap tour for a political candidate. What do you think her team is any good?
I think that they struggle. I mean, if her prep for these interviews is any guide, I think they really, really struggle. But also, the team is only as good as the candidate. Maybe they put briefing books in front of her and ad plans in front of her, and she either doesn't read them or doesn't understand them or can't execute or something. Like she is not very good herself, and so maybe there is something to your theory that the Biden team just hates her. I mean, it certainly seemed that way when Biden walked out into the press briefing room and said, no, she agreed with everything I do, which is
really... the silver lining for Republicans if Trump loses is that they're going to crush her and the Democrats for the next 2 elections. The silver lining for the Democrats, if she loses, is that they're going to crush Trump and the Republicans in the next 2 elections. Those are pretty real silver linings, aren't they?
Well, 26 will be a difficult cycle for Republicans in the Senate either way. It's a much different map than what we have right now. And whether Trump wins or Kamala wins, it's going to be really hard for us. But if Kamala wins, it is going to be just extremely difficult for Democrats to take a majority in the Senate in 26 because no one's going to be able to explain what it is that she's doing on a daily basis. They can't hide her forever. And remember, like last year at this time, everybody was making fun of her. The media was making fun of her. Everybody was saying, oh,
and we're making fun of her right now. John, you know what a heart out is. I got a heart out. Thank you so much. Everyone go and watch Ruthless Podcast. That's John Ashbrook. Forgive him his Bengals sins. They are many.